See us?
No, hold on. There we are.
Yeah,
There's
we're
your
there.
ugly ass.
That's your ugly ass.
Yeah.
Okay. I need 30 seconds all clear. Let me make sure. Can you hear the busy earning?
Look.
Yeah, it's good and loud. Okay. Oh my God, you're going to be distracted.
No, it's fine.
Oh,
I was like,
oh my God, it's going to be horrible.
okay, see, it's like a 10-second delay.
Yeah. And now you're,
So,
yeah.
I'm not gonna. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I bet. I just figured we could put it up afterwards for the Facebook or something that people want to hear.
Yeah.
And it'll be straight before we get the podcast going. So, yeah, give me a 30 seconds all clear, Sean, please.
Chaotic Radio, because the rest is just a waste of time.
Hi, everybody. I'm B, and I want to welcome you to Business Autopsy. And I got Sean with me, right, Sean?
What's going on, dude?
You're doing pretty good. So, guys, if you first time listen to our show, let me tell you what we're here to do. We are here to make you the most interesting person at the water cooler or make you the most interesting person at the bar by giving you wacky information from different businesses that may have failed. Or what we think we're doing right now is we're working on the beats and figuring out how this show is going to run. So we think we're going to hit three things up through the course of this show. Not this show, but shows we produce in general. The first one's going to be like, how did corporations die? So we had two of those already, right, Sean?
Yeah, 2 in the book.
Yeah, so we did a Blockbuster and
VHS, Betamax.
no, that's what other show. The other show was Technology Wars.
Oh yeah.
So the
Yes,
idea
yes.
of what system, like I know we will be doing a Nintendo versus Sega one.
Oh yeah.
That-
we need to do that.
That'd be fun. And then we could talk about automakers and things like that. How did this company die that way? And I think the last one we're going to talk about on the one we're going to highlight today is really crashes in industry. You know, what happened to industries that were making money hand over fist and where'd they go? I mean,
And what caused them to plummet?
yeah, what caused them not to be, well, I mean, they're probably, at the time when we were looking at these things, we were talking about these things, the things were probably prevalent everywhere. Everybody knows about them. Everybody's seen them. Everybody has access to them.
Oh yeah, it's iconic. This one would be considered iconic.
Yeah. So this show, we want to talk about the history of Atari and talked about the video game crash in 1983 or 85? 83. 83. Okay, Sean, so go ahead. Give me some history of Atari.
Well, Atari originally started out as, I believe it was Pong by Nolan Bushnell and one of his associates.
Really?
Yeah, created the Pong machine, Pong arcade console, and made some buku bucks off of that one.
So 1971.
1971, well, no, that was the original date, yes.
So it's Nolan Bushnell, Ted Dabney, and a engineering firm, Zizix Energy. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Yeah, Zizix, I think, was the original name they wanted to go with, but they couldn't.
Okay.
So when they trademarked the Atari name, they actually was the lady at the trademark desk. They laid out 3 names for them, and Atari was one of them. And if I had my notes in front of me with that one, I would have given the other 3 names. But the lady picked Atari.
Where the hell's your notes at?
I have a ton here. All right, Bernard. I have a ton here.
So
Okay.
are you prepared? Are you
Oh,
ready
I'm
for
always
this?
prepared. I'm Boy Scout.
Oh, got
right?
it. Got
Don't
it.
argue with me. on this.
FYI, guys, me and Sean are the worst students ever. So you're not going to get an accurate description, but you're going to get
You're going to get a barroom description.
you're going to get a good enough description where you can have enough facts here and there to make yourself sound interesting when you talk to somebody about it.
Exactly. You can draw them in with this.
Yeah.
You may
Easily.
not keep them, but you can enthrall them for 5 minutes.
So like you said, Atari, Bushnell wanted to call it the game of Go. Go's a
Yes.
big Japanese chess-like thingy, and Atari actually is a position where it's like checkmate. Atari is like checkmate, or you're in check. You're in check when you're playing chess. So when you can go, you have to say Atari, and then you can win, I guess. Okay, so they did what?
After they, started with their version of Pong, getting it out, they went into the console business.
But were they the first console people?
They were not.
Okay, who was?
They were. Hold on.
Okay. Those of you watching on YouTube, I can't edit this out on the podcast. This is great.
You'll forgive my brain fart here because I had it in front of me. I really did. 'Cause I had these all set out and like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It should all be here. But no, now that I'm live, I can't give you the information that you want.
It's okay. It's okay. Listen, we're not professional yet.
Yeah, this is episode number 4. All right? We'd have some decency and professionalism. But what the hell was it called?
What are you talking about? What are you looking for?
Family F was one of the systems.
the
ColecoVision.
ColecoVision.
And Family F were in competition with Atari at the time.
Okay.
And Atari, I think their main flagship one was the 2600.
Yes.
Atari 2600.
So here's what I'm going to say about 2600. We need more consoles with wood paneling.
You know what? That's a good throwback. You have your PS4 like that?
We need more consoles with wood paneling. I don't care what you think of it. They created a system that was going to fit in the home entertainment system back in the 70s with the wood paneling, because I was young, but I remember my parents had a lot of oak and wood stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So they wanted to fit in with everything, right?
It fit.
And that's a good thing. I mean, the system, if you have never seen Atari before, is very, very simple. The 2600 has 4 switches. The controller is 1 joystick, 1 button, and honestly, it gave you a wealth of entertainment. There was so many things you could do with that. I mean, before, systems were just one game. You had a game, like the Pong or the Odyssey. Those were all Pong systems. And then they had the
You're
Atari.
talking about the paddle controller.
Yeah, the
right?
paddle controller.
Yeah.
And then what Atari did is said, we don't need one game. We need multiple games. So we will give you different cartridges with different games. Like, there's this one system, I can't remember right now, but this is how they got different games out of it. It was the game system, and it was Pong. Also, like, just Pong. In order for you to play tennis, you put a little green screen over your TV. Now you have tennis. You want to play water polo, put a little blue screen over your TV. Now you have water polo. If you want to play, what is it? Table tennis, put a little black screen over your TV, a little black overlay, so it can be.
And this made money.
This made money. It's all made. That was part of
People were
the.
suckers back then.
That was part of the thing where you were able to change it by just laying it over your TV, because it didn't have the graphical. They didn't have the graphical power, the graphical things. But I'm looking at it. Atari was such an innovator. They basically said, we don't need to keep selling you just one game at a time. We'll sell you a system to open up the gateway to play all sorts of games. Right?
Right, correct.
So, I mean, they had, the Atari Video Computer System, the VCS, what we call the 2600, costed $199.
Which is equivalent to about $850 of today's money.
$850 right there.
$850. Which, reasonably priced compared to, people that wanted a Betamax or a VHS system at the time.
Hint, 2 episodes ago.
$199 was a hell of a steal.
Really? Yeah, because you're getting, now you get entertainment you control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's every kid wanted this system.
Yeah, everybody wanted.
Everybody.
Everybody.
It doesn't even have to be a damn
Well, and here, here's the good thing about this too. At that time, Atari was actually probably part of the reason why we started having a lot more arcades happening. We had arcade machines everywhere. We had arcade games everywhere. I mean, besides the Space Invaders thing, Space Invaders was so popular in Japan when they ran out of 100 yen coins because everybody played it so much. Then
wow, that I didn't know.
Yeah, they did. They ran out. Space Invaders made so much money that when they started putting it in the machines, they ran out of 100 yen coins in Japan. Then we started getting arcade machines and pinball machines everywhere. So pinball's been around since the 30s. And I remember that. I think there's another tidbit is New Jersey. They wouldn't allow you to play pinball in New Jersey because they thought it was a form of gambling. So you had to, and there was an actual case. I didn't study this.
That's some petty stuff there.
No, but there was an actual case where a guy had to prove that it wasn't gambling; it was all skill.
How the hell? What are you winning?
I don't know.
What are you winning?
I don't know.
Nothing ever came out of a pinball machine.
Hopes and dreams.
No, you put your hopes and dreams in the machine.
Oh, and that didn't come out.
No, nothing came out.
Okay.
Only anger came out.
Lots of anger.
Oh, yes.
That's because you tilted the machine.
all the time.
But yeah, so Atari had this new thing where you're able to play your video games you want at home, and you're able to have a great time. And so they had that technology of bringing the cartridges along, where you had cartridges to play whatever you wanted. If you want to play Pac-Man, you play it at home.
Yeah, and you know, think of the titles they had back then. You know, Asteroid.
Oh, I played the hell out of Asteroids.
You ever play Kaboom?
Hell yeah, I played Kaboom.
Kaboom. That was the very first one that I played.
So Kaboom, guys, is a game. If you've never seen it before, it's very rudimentary, where a guy's throwing bombs off of a roof, running back and forth, catching them.
And that's all it
And
was.
that's all it was. And you just kept playing it, and there was no ending. You just kept playing
No,
it.
that's it. It got harder. He got faster,
Yeah.
and that was it.
There were a lot of games, but the cartridge format is what gave Atari their edge. I think the cartridge format is what Atari said, this is going to be our thing. Now, I remember listening to an interview with Nolan Bushnell. Again, guys, after the show, you can go check our YouTube out. Not YouTube, our Facebook. We'll link to you the videos and articles we use to get information to you. So if you want to double check us and fact check us afterwards, you're more than welcome to. You know, we know we're wrong sometimes. And
Not all the time.
Yeah, but if we are wrong, let us know. We can make the correction or do what we have to do later. So I saw an interview with Nolan Bushnell, and he was talking about how when they released the 2600, he said, you know what we need to do? We need to start working on the next one right now, because this is going to be obsolete. It's going to be obsolete in 3 years.
See, he was smart.
He was.
He was thinking ahead for his business.
He was. They all looked at him like he was fucking crazy.
Oh,
They all looked at him like he was crazy. Just the idea that they thinking, look, we just created this thing. Now you want us to make another one that's better? Why would we do that? But then he left the company, didn't he?
He sold his share of the company to Warner
Communications?
Warner Communications for $25 million. I think in the range of $25 million.
Yeah.
And I think he kept an interest in the company for a while until Warner gave him the boot.
Oh. They
So-
fired the guy that created it.
Oh, yeah.
Good
Well,
for
I think
them.
that's how it goes with a lot of
That's
these,
a smart move.
these companies. Yeah, exactly. Get rid of your innovator.
So, you know
Make your own.
what he did afterwards, right? Nolan Bushnell? After Atari?
Yeah, he went on to become president of Chuck E. Cheese.
That's right, he was. And you know why he did that, though?
For shits and giggles.
Yes and no. Chuck E. Cheese was actually a platform to get more games in kids' hands. It was to bring
You're
arcade.
right.
It was to bring arcade
You're
games
right.
in the kids' hands.
When Chuck E. Cheese was cool and had arcade
Yes.
games.
So
Yes.
Nolan Bushnell was just trying to make money still by bringing along. He was able to create a whole nother franchise of children's entertainment back in the 70s when they didn't have that either. And it's all based off of the Atari. So we can say Atari legitimately brought along Chuck E. Cheese as a company,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All thanks to Nolan Bushnell.
and him getting canned by Warner Communications. Way to go, Warner!
Yeah, good job. But if you think about that, I mean, you think keeping him would have lengthened the term of Atari? Lengthened the
I don't know.
stay.
I don't know
Staying power.
that, but you know, we see a lot of stories where people who have the ideas or who have the vision start working on it, and then somebody else just can't see the vision with them, and then what they say is going to happen happens. I can't say that Atari would have been in a better spot with him or without him, but obviously Warner thought they could make more money, and they did. I mean, good for Warner. Because look at it, the 2600 made money hand over fist, and the reason why, cartridges. You can buy cartridges and just change it. Again, I know I'm harping on this cartridge thing, but this is a very important fact about this. I mean, today you understand that, hey, I can put any game in my Nintendo or my Switch or my Xbox or PlayStation and play a whole new experience. And again, this was revolutionary back then. This is the birth of the video game market that we have today. And that's awesome. But there's one thing they didn't do well.
Well, actually, if we're on the same page here, you go ahead and I'll say if I'm
No,
on
you
the
go
same
right ahead. I want to hear what you guys say.
If one thing they didn't do well was probably control their product of the game.
That's right. Quality control was absent. And here, let me play a commercial for you right now. An Atari commercial of the Gimme Everything Atari commercial. And it's actually really interesting because you can see how much stuff they had for Atari people were buying. So
I want everything. Now you get a new low price up to $30 a rebate off.
there are two controllers, two paddle controllers,
a
whole bunch of games on there.
Is that a Toys R Us commercial?
No, it's just called a 2600 Give Me Everything commercial.
everything. Not everything. Soon there'll be educational games too. Is that everything? That's everything.
They put down speakers and a trackball, so much stuff that they were on, and they had a keyboard on top of that. You know, another one I want to play is a really good one from Activision. Activision was a company that was making money hand over fist with Atari.
Oh yeah,
because they had some of the better games. So we have a young, very young Jack Black before he reached stardom doing a Pitfall commercial with us. So let's play this for you too.
Just last night, I was lost in the jungle with Pitfall Harry, surrounded by giant scorpions and man-eating crocodiles.
Well, Harry and I just grabbed the van, swung through the trees, and
Now, which one lady in there everybody's talking about Pitfall?
jungle treasure. It was really neat. If you haven't met Pitfall Harry, you're missing the year's most incredible video game adventure. Pitfall. For the
You know, I'd
Atari
still play that now.
2600 and Intel.
Pitfall's
No,
fun.
I'd still play it now. Now I'm not talking like a redone version. Some of these games I would go back and play.
No, listen, I played Pitfall.
Yeah.
I'd play Haunted Mansion.
I played Kaboom. I played Pitfall. I played Yard's Revenge, one of the Atari's biggest games, by the way.
You know, there's actually a really cool story. Sorry, sidetracking everybody right now. There's actually a really cool thing that Atari did, and it wasn't Atari. It was another people called it. They created a thing called Sword Quest, and Sword Quest was actually a full-on video game hunt, where you had the game and you got a certain score and found the right thing. You got the next game after that. Then you get the next thing, and they start giving away actual prizes like a gold gauntlet and an actual sword and stuff like that for playing video games. So this is something about the games at the time. They were being that more dynamic. They were showing people that you can be interactive with your entertainment, and we can still give you prizes and give you gifts and stuff. Now, I'm going to link to that Sword Quest thing. That's the only place I learned about that was from the Angry Video Game Nerd, the video show on YouTube. Great episode, good stuff, good information in there. But yeah, they didn't have quality.
Yeah.
You know, Activision was talking about how they can basically throw an empty card in the air and money's going to fall out because people were buying everything for Atari. They're paying $30 for a cartridge, $40 for a cartridge. And then what happened was a lot of people saw that's easy money.
Oh yeah,
We don't
we got to get a piece of this.
it's not hard to program. We can do this. And so we started getting games that didn't belong at all.
The Kool-Aid Man.
Oh no, I was talking about the Chuck Wagon one.
The Chuck Wagon. Yes, you have the. Oh,
I'll-
that is terrible.
I'll get the Chuck Wagon
That
dog
is
going.
terrible.
So if you don't, go ahead, Sean, explain Chuck Wagon, everybody.
Chuck Wagon was a dog food from the 1980s. I remember that thing. This little Chuck Wagon would come out of the damn cabinet, and the dog would chase it to get his damn food. So I can imagine the game being just as shitty or just as bad with that type of thing. What are you gonna do? You're gonna chase the Chuck Wagon as a dog?
Yeah,
It's too linear. It's too.
It was a maze. Here's a Chuck Wagon commercial. Purina Chuck Wagon.
Man, the food didn't look too bad.
I wouldn't eat the dog food. So she puts it over, and all of a sudden, a little puppy Chuck Wagon, which is a wagon and horses walking around, and all of a sudden the dogs see it and they start running after it because they know they're going to eat. So think of it: a dog food had its own Atari game.
That is terrible. But that is not the worst of the problems of third-party leasing.
No, you know, it wasn't third-party leasing. That wasn't it. I mean, they had third-party issues here and there, but I don't think it was the leasing problem of it. I think it was quality.
They just didn't give a damn what came out.
They would, because they knew they could make money. If you're the
Exactly.
if you're the only guy in town and you're throwing out games left and right, somebody's going to buy them. And at the time, everybody was buying them. So companies started coming up left and right all over, just trying to make some of this Atari money, get all this cartridge money coming out. And what we found out is a lot of bad stuff came out. An example, Chuck Wagon, but we have a couple of them that were like the worst of the worst.
Worst of the worst, but I would have played it.
Well, let's talk about one of the biggest licensings they had, right? So you guys know 1981, 82?
We talk for what? Are we talking about the year it came out, or are we talking about the crash?
The movie,
Yeah,
when that movie came out.
I think it was 82. Yeah, 82. Had to have been 82.
So, yeah, because the crash happened afterwards. So 1982 is what we're going to go with. The movie E.T. is released, or being ready to be released at the theaters that Christmas, right?
Yep.
So Atari wanted to get ahead of this. Atari wanted to be the people who had the ET games. So they bought the ET franchise for, I think, $25 million.
It was $25 million.
$25 million to make sure they're the only system that has the ET game.
Now, thinking back from then to now, you think companies would have learned that, hey, making games after movies is not profitable?
No, it's profitable.
Depends on.
It's-
Tell me a game that's coming out.
The Aladdin game for the Super Nintendo.
Okay, that was a good game.
Oh, you want to keep going with this? You want to play this? Go down this road? They are profitable if you do a good job of it.
In my mind, in recent memory, no. Okay, I know this is a side topic, but ET is the start of this. Okay, ET is the starting point.
But there's a reason why it's the start of it. They got the licensing 5 weeks before the movie came out. 5 weeks before the Christmas season. They go to the programmer, ask, "Hey, can you make us a game in 5 weeks?"
Yes.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah, I got 5 people working with me. We got this. We'll work in 10-hour shifts apiece. We'll get it done.
Okay. They didn't
Round the clock.
You know the problem with that whole transaction right there? Nobody ever asked, is it going to be good?
At any point,
Is this going to be
get a copy to
good?
play? Can you show us a working copy?
Yeah.
They went on blind faith.
They went on blind faith and released the game out to the public, and it is generally regarded as the worst game of all time.
But to be fair, the gentleman that made the game actually did a very good job with Raiders of the Lost Ark for the Atari.
We're not talking about that.
But I'm saying the guy that made it had a bad, people shouldn't think he had a bad stigma behind him because he made a crappy game.
Yeah, he made a crappy game in the time that was given to him, and that, in my opinion, and then Atari decided, okay, we now have a game that's going to be the most popular movie for 1982. Let's make a lot of copies to sell. So, Sean, I know you did the math for me. How many Atari 2600s were in the wild at that time?
There were 10 million that were sold, which is a huge number.
It's a
at
big
their
number.
peak.
Big
10
number.
million video game consoles sold.
Now, how many games did they make of ET?
This one, oh gosh, I think it was like 15,
It was 12 million.
12 million. I'm sorry.
So they made 2 million more copies of the game than they had systems.
because they were banking on people to buy it, which was also a problem with another one of their games. Now we're going into the crash of the video game era here. All right, E.T. could have been the straw that broke the camel's back.
E.T. was the straw that broke the camel's back.
But before that, they did the same blunder with Pac-Man. Now, Pac-Man in the
Oh, yeah.
arcade was phenomenal.
Thanks for reminding me, Pac-Man.
Pac-Man was awesome in the arcade. Playing it still now is great. But if you saw the version that came out on the Atari, how pixelated, how stiff this game was, it was terrible. But even as bad as it was, it still sold 7 million copies. Now, the problem with that, though, is they might have sold 7 million copies too, assuming that they had 10 million consoles out there. They ordered 12 million copies.
So they did the same
They
stupid
did the
thing they
same
did.
damn thing again, like they did with E.T. Why? Do they think that that's a huge blunder in the business world because you're out 5 million copies. No, I'm sorry, you're out 2 million.
No, you have overproduced for what you have. If you have 10 million systems and you assume everybody's going to buy one, you should only produce 10 million copies. So they had 2 million copies that have no use whatsoever.
That are sitting there idle.
So more product went out than you have systems that do it, unless people decide they want to buy 2 copies in case one of them goes busted. And at the time, cartridges didn't break. Cartridges didn't go bad. They didn't get scratches like CDs do.
No.
So
They were durable.
that was dumb throwing away of money. And then you're right, Pac-Man was hideous. I can't explain to kids how big Pac-Man was, but I'll tell you this. There's a song out there called Pac-Man Fever. Pac-Man was a top 10 Billboard hit. We're talking about Pac-Man. There's actually Pac-Man had its own candy, its own cereal, its own cartoon show. You can find a Pac-Man machine probably at every other corner of the United States. I gotta find out how much Pac-Man actually made as a game.
Gobs and gobs of money. But on the Atari system itself, it sold 7 million, which is respectable. A respectable number. But not exactly Atari's strong point of, You know what? I think Nintendo learned from this. I'm going off a side note while you're looking for
Wait,
something else.
no. We're still on the crash.
I know. I'm okay. I was going off on a side note. That's
No,
fine.
we're still on the crash right now. So, Pac-Man was horrible, and they decided to make so many more copies than they had to before, which was bad. And then you have E.T., which was horrible. They made more copies than they had to for the system they had, which was just as bad. And then you know what other thing we have to talk about?
What's that?
Arcades.
Arcades? Yeah.
You know, there used to be arcades everywhere. Used to be places you can go put quarters in and make money. Arcades were a business, a huge business, making
Bowling
money
alleys were part of arcades
left
too.
and right. You
Yeah.
know, we don't have arcades anymore. And I would think at the time of '83, when the crash started to happen, people started seeing that these games are all crap.
Yeah.
And the big thing you can look at is, since you have no quality control on your games, people will just say, well, let's recoup our costs. Instead of selling a game for $40, we're going to sell it for $5. So you might have a quality game at $40. I mean, have Pitfall. Pitfall's still fun, fun to
Yes.
play. $40. But if you're a dad who doesn't know anything about it, are you going to go sit there and buy one game for 40 or buy 8 games for 5?
Exactly. But what you're getting for that, you're getting Chuck Wagon, you're getting the Kool-Aid Man.
You're getting
getting terrible games.
you're getting
for
a
$5.
lot of games that were bad. And I think, like you were saying, the thing I think that happened out of this, because we got 2 years from '83, so the crash happens. Video game crash happens. People are saying they don't think video games will ever come back again. There's never going to be a market for this type of thing. People will never go back and buy games, which is totally untrue as we know today. This industry is more than
You can make a living playing video games now.
Hell yeah, nerds.
Where the hell was that when we were young?
Just out of reach.
Yeah. Like 20 years out of reach.
Yeah, just a bit out of reach. No, you can. Yeah, you make livings by playing video games. You got people who Twitch stream and do a lot of other things like that. And the crash happened. People didn't think it'd happen again. And then all of a sudden, we have this thing called the Nintendo Entertainment System, 1985.
The Nintendo Entertainment System, straying away from calling himself a video game console.
They didn't want to call it a computer either.
They wanted to stray away from that and say it's an entertainment system, fun for the family.
So why didn't they suffer the same fate? Was it
Because
just better graphics, better what?
Well, 8-bit. I think Atari was trying to get in that 8-bit game too. But what Nintendo did to separate themselves was they had quality control. They put that damn gold star sticker on your games. It's, hey, this passed our test. All right, you can play it. You can assure that you're getting a good game.
So the big difference we had is there's a reason why Nintendo was able to get away with that. Nintendo actually created a lock-in feature for the system, which was a code that your cartridge had to have for it to work in the Nintendo system. Nintendo did not allow you, if you had a crap game, to get on their system, to flood the market with bad things or bad games. And they made sure to go through a quality process, a quality check process with all the stuff they released. And like you said, there was a big gold seal on it saying this is Nintendo quality tested. So they didn't allow things like Chuck Wagon. They didn't allow things like E.T. to get out there. They didn't allow things that were subpar to reach their system.
No. I mean, there's some crappy games on there, but that's neither here nor there.
No, there's just a lot of crappy games. But they made sure to had a certain level of quality to it. So
Now, going back to the E.T. thing, do you want to know how many copies of the game they put out there? It was a modest number, but what came back was terrible. So E.T., Atari thinking it had 5 weeks out. Oh, yeah, no problem. We're going to mass produce 4 million copies
okay.
at the time. Okay, not bad considering there was 10 million, maybe 10 to 11 million at the time of consoles out there. Of those 4 million, all but 500,000 came back.
You're kidding me.
All but 500,000 copies came back.
So you're
500,000 suckers went out there and bought this game. And this was before that, again, way before the internet reviews. Like, hey, stop. Don't, no red flags or anything like that.
So the game was so bad, they put out 4 million of them. They made 12 million in total.
3.5 million came back.
So
They go, "No, we're good."
3.5 million were not be able to be sold.
No,
What they do with those cartridges?
they buried them. They buried them.
They did.
They buried them in a trying to think of the name of the town in New Mexico. So what you heard about that is true.
Wait, okay, so I'm gonna direct you right now. You have to remember that the people who are listening have no knowledge of what we're talking about. So you have to get a lot more detailed when you speak on these things. So when you talk about they buried them, you got to say,
Okay, what they did. All right. They literally went to a dump in New Mexico, 20 feet deep, dug a hole 20 feet deep, and buried these games.
instead of trying to resell them or anything.
Instead of trying to resell these ET games, they said, we're burying them, and that's it. And the reason they put them in an area in that New Mexico is because it's an area where it's prohibited to trespass, loiter, walk around, almost Roswell-like in nature.
Really?
Yeah, you can't go in there, and you can't do it without special permission. So they buried them, and they forgot about them.
Okay.
Well, supposedly.
Well, no, we have people who are actually going out to that New Mexico site and big dug up the games to find out about it was there. And then it's actually they are there. So we had a loss of 3.5 million games that went nowhere, and they had to bury it. How
Yeah.
much money are you throwing away when you do that? Just imagine.
Well, if it's $30 a game.
I'm not doing the math.
Yeah, I'm not doing the math
Yeah,
either. So
that's
$30, $40
That's a lot.
a cop. Yeah.
So
3.5 million.
those were potential profits they lost, and they lost them so much. So they, let's see. So they had the problems of the video game crash. They said that the losses totaled for the Atari doing this with ET.
500 million?
It was 500 million.
$500 million.
Yeah. So with ET, with just bad games and people not trusting the system, $500 million was lost in like a quarter of business.
And think about how much, well, I want to say how much they lost with Pac-Man, but Pac-Man, well, again, was the start of that.
I think Pac-Man was just a crap game that didn't give him any credibility.
No.
Because when you want to play Pac-Man, you want to see all 4 different colored ghosts and jump around and get the power pellets. And
Yeah.
if you ever seen look up the Pac-Man on YouTube. It is Pac-Man for Atari on YouTube is horrible. Horrible.
And you think they'd learned their lesson, but they brought out Miss Pac-Man. And the public at that point was like, no, we're done, man. You screwed us 2 times in a row.
Actually,
There's no third time a charm.
They had
for
a
you.
Miss Pac-Man for
They had a
Atari?
Miss Pac-Man for Atari.
How many did that sell?
I didn't get the number on that one because they just said no. The public was like, no, we're not. We're wrapping this crap up.
Well, okay, so Atari, in our opinion, was the reason why we had this big video game crash in 1983, where Warner Brothers stock slid.
Warner Communications.
Warner Communications stock slid 2/3 from their original price.
It went from $60
to $20.
to $20.
They
20.
that this one game or these couple of games and these missteps caused this one division to lose $500 million and people not to trust video games anymore. And yet, I think this all could have been avoided with a little bit of quality control. Just a little bit of quality
Just
control.
a little bit. That saved them a couple million bucks.
Well, and what the thing is, again, what Nintendo did that was smart. They created a key that you can't not play a Nintendo game without having a Nintendo key to play the game. And Atari didn't have anything like that. So anybody could create an Atari cart. You can go out, figure out how to program, make an Atari cart, and then you could have made money. It could have been horrible when you made money. You know what we didn't talk about with Atari too? The thing that since they didn't have this quality control and they didn't have the fact that people were watching this, the naked games.
Oh yeah. How do we glance over that? We were just talking about that earlier.
No joke. I mean, listen, Atari actually. There was a couple of companies that decided, we're gonna make games for adults. Trust me, they're not for adults. But
They're not for anybody.
no, not
Send
at all.
them to hell.
There's actually a couple of games. One of them's called Beat 'em and Eat 'em. You figure out what it is about. It's just like Kaboom, but beat 'em and 2 people at the bottom are eating them.
Little droplets.
Yes,
Are you serious?
Yes.
I haven't heard of that one.
it's called. Yeah, they made.
Eat them and eat them. So it's 2 people laying down with their mouths open.
They're not laying down. They're running back and forth.
Ah.
Yeah, from a guy. It's like Kaboom was, where you throw the bombs down.
Yes.
It's just that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Little
yeah.
Droplets of joy.
I will show you. I'll put that
yes.
on the YouTube too. That's pretty interesting. Or like the game that me and Sean were talking about earlier, Custer's Revenge.
Horrible. Could you even get away with something like that nowadays?
No, so let's talk about Custer's Revenge for a little bit. Okay, guys. Let's take you back to 1980. The world's a lot more tolerant of this type of stuff. not like it is now. And you can create a game where you're General Custard and you avoid arrows coming from the sky to go rape an Indian girl that's tied to a pole. And you have to avoid the arrows coming back and forth.
There is literally a digital dong.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the digital dong actually has
Showing,
movement
yep.
too.
And
And you walk, it flops. It's ridiculous.
you gotta guide it in.
You,
Like it's
you don't have to guide it in. You just get to her and you press the button, and then she
whoop.
starts jumping up, and you make the noise. It is horrible.
and
It's,
yeah, people bought that game.
people bought it, but look, this is what happens when you don't have quality control. Anybody can put whatever the hell they want out there on your system, and this is the reputation you're going to get. You know, you're going to get these people don't have any taste. Can you imagine people find out about the games like Beat 'em and Eat 'em or what's it called, or Custer's Revenge, and they say, why would we want anything that has that? Why would we want something that plays these games in my house?
Yeah.
You know, Nintendo again did the smart thing and said, we will only let things that we like, only let things that we want on our system. We'll give the code to that. Now, that's not to say people weren't able to jailbreak the Nintendo system. We have a couple games that are out there that were jailbroken, and they're just hard to get, and now they're worth like thousands of dollars on eBay because they were just so
Hard, so rare.
rare. But yeah, Atari was the reason why we had to crash, and they had to crash because of quality. Now, Atari didn't necessarily die.
No, they came. They fought. They kept fighting, and they kept fighting for quite a while. I think their next venture was what was called is before the Lynx was the ST, which was a computer system. I think Atari tried to go into the computer business and try to sell to the PC home.
They did.
Yes, and that actually made them a bit of money,
$25 million in profit.
which allowed them to venture back into the console world.
And what did they do then?
And they created something. Now, the idea at the time wasn't bad to have a handheld system, a handheld game system with better graphics than the Atari, and then at the time, better graphics than the Game Boy. But the problem is, when you make something like that, you got to prepare. You got to prepare to make sure you're getting enough systems out there.
Okay, well, so the thing you're talking about is the Lynx.
The Lynx, the Atari Lynx handheld system, competed with the Game Boy. Yes.
Okay. And what made it different than the Game Boy?
It was in color, and the graphics were, I think, it was colorized, and graphics were better.
Yeah, sort of.
Sort of. Well, they were.
They were better. They were colored.
If you're looking at a Game Boy, which was, it was just a grayish pixelated game, but awesome. But I think the asking price of the Lynx was too much, and
$179.
people weren't having it.
No, they sold 3 million units of it. It wasn't a bad system. The issue with the Lynx, like it would issue with other handheld systems that came along at the time, was battery usage. And 6 batteries got you a half hour.
Which is terrible.
Yeah. What are you going to do with that? Nintendo, 4 batteries got you 6 to 8 hours. If you go, and that's before we had rechargeable batteries.
Yeah.
So, they made a system that was pretty cool. Then people bought it, and they bought it pretty well. But when you start trying to figure out these numbers, I mean, this is 95, 19. So the Lynx came out in 1990, 1995,
1989.
1989. Well, the U.S. sales of it were about 800,000. If you combine it with the Game Gear, which was Sega's handheld system, less than 7 million units. But the Game Boy sold 16 million units at the same time. Nintendo was kicking ass, taking names.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried. They legit. They put effort into it. What was the next thing that Atari tried to make, Sean?
Well, they go, okay, well, we're going to cut our losses here. We're going for the next bigger animal. We're going for the Jaguar.
Oh, what's a Jaguar?
Now, again, ahead of their time in thinking, Jaguar was supposed to be a 64-bit system that came out in 1993. 64 bits in 1993. At the time, you had 16 bits with Sega, with Genesis, and the Super Nintendo.
Okay, let me explain this to people out there. Bits are basically processing power on a computer board that makes it easier to get a lot more information, put down better graphics, more music. It makes the computer bigger and better. I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Nerds, prove me wrong.
And back in our day, they was like, "Oh my God, that's a lot."
Oh, yeah,
we went off that. They sold it. They touted that.
Well, we went off of the numbers because that's what we knew. Numbers were finite. 16, 64, 32. Obviously, the bigger number means the better system.
Correct. You would think.
Yeah.
However, the Jaguar really ran at a 32-bit rate. And the problem was they didn't have enough parts to make this system.
They didn't?
They didn't have enough parts, quality parts, to make the Jaguar sell. So in total, for the 3-year run the Jaguar had, sold 250,000 consoles.
That's nothing.
That's a month of PS4 sales. That's a bad month of PlayStation sales.
Okay, so 1993.
But they were, they had a good copy of Doom, which was, PC comparable as far as graphics.
Doom was like the first person shooter out there, which sold a lot of on the PC.
Jaguar. It ran clean. They had Rayman, which was also very popular at the time.
Rayman is another game. Okay,
but I'm listing out the titles that helped make the Jaguar.
I understand, but remember, the people we're talking to have no present knowledge of any of this. So when you start listing out these things, you have to get descriptions behind it so they know what you're talking about. Even though we understand what Doom is and we understand what Rayman is because this is part of our lexicon, we still have to let the people who are out there know this is what this type of game was. This is what this type of game is. This is why this was popular. Okay?
All right. I'm just thinking because, Doom is still synonymous today.
Doom is synonymous to video game players.
Yes. I know we're not catering to all video game players. I understand. We're catering to people that
we're catering people who have an intensive curiosity on why these things died or what happened.
Yes.
So
back to the main point there. 250,000 copies or consoles is not going to float.
No, that's really, really bad, especially when you have the Super Nintendo, another video game system done by Nintendo that don't really want, and the Sega Genesis having their war. Jaguar had no place to go.
Hey guys, we're here too.
Yeah.
No, not really.
No, they had no place where to go. Okay.
And from that point on, that was the last system they made.
Yeah. So, what's Atari doing now?
Atari is, how many times did it get sold? From that point on, after their losses from the Jaguar,
4 or 5 times.
They were sold 4 or 5 times, and finally
the name has been used forever because they used it to slap on everything you want to slap on, and Atari's been around like crazy. The name's been used forever for everything else. It's just not the same company. It hasn't been the same company.
Atari, it was in 2013, 2014, finally started, they branched out to a different version of games. They went to casino games. Atari
Really?
Casino, yeah.
Oh.
Online Atari Casino.
Huh, I didn't know that.
And they started making their money from that. And I think just recently, though we don't have a lot of information on this, as of now, Atari is trying to relaunch a new console in 2017, trying to revamp their name.
Huh. Well, that's good. Well, here's the thing you can do. If you do have an inkling to play any old Atari game, you can find collections for video game systems today. I bet you can find almost all those games on your phone, too.
Yeah,
easily.
There's emulators
Probably
out
emulators
there.
like crazy.
Yeah, easily find it.
So Atari is going through a resurgence, trying to maybe get the hipster money, I'm guessing. But we sat there and showed you guys exactly where Atari started, which was just a small little company that started making Pong machines, and they were able to create a system that has create a way to play games where you can play all sorts of games, which was cartridge based where you can play Breakout or Mario Brothers or whatever else on the system. Which was
Mario Brothers on there?
The original Mario Brothers.
The original Mario Brothers.
The one where you jump around.
Yeah. Okay.
Kill turtles.
Yeah.
So you can do that, and they innovated the whole way how video game systems work. And the owner, he decided, hey, I'm booking out. I'm going to create Chuck E. Cheese so I can sell more arcade machines, which was a good deal too. But they actually had a problem with their quality, and quality is what happened. People flooded the market with really, really bad games, and when they tried to get information out there, when they didn't have any quality control, they didn't have no lock and key, so anybody can make a game for it, and it could be horrible, just horrible. And they couldn't stop it.
No, and there's a way they still could have made good money if they had quality controls. If we're gonna license you out to these guys, sorry, no Custer's Revenge, no rapey game, sorry, no Chuck Wagon game, sorry. But let's see what else. What else can you give us? And then we tested.
Oh my God! Did you? Oh,
that would have been great.
I didn't know.
They would have done something with that. What's up?
I'm looking at the game Breakout. You know, Steve Wozniak helped design Breakout.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty damn cool.
That's still a damn good game too.
Yeah, still great game. Great games last forever, guys. So yeah, Atari was the biggest reason why we don't have the video game, or why we had the video game crash in 1983. And the reason why we don't have arcades anymore, we didn't really get into this, but it's sort of hard to keep a business afloat when the people who really run them hate their customers.
Yeah, don't give a damn.
They didn't care. The arcades got dirty, messy, games got broken and got messed with and things like that. And it sucked because you could have places you can go in there and play games all day long, but if the owner just hates who you are, hates a customer base, they're not going to take care of it. You can still find arcades here and there, and you'll find them like a Dave & Buster's.
James Games, is that still around?
James Games is still around. James Games is a local arcade to the Inland
For
Empire.
us here, yes.
Yeah. So the video game crash happened, and we had a lot of crazy things that come out, but we now have an industry that is huge, just the video games in general. So, guys, well, thank you for listening to this show. Sean, did you have fun?
This was good.
This was good, too. So, thank you for listening to this show. Let me do a quick little live read for Chaotic Radio. ChaoticRadio.com is the place where we're at right now, where we are sounding so good for you. Now, what I need you guys to do is if you want to do your own podcast or your own show, just go to ChaoticRadio.com. Get a hold of the ownership there. They'll help you out, give you time. They'll set you up with an engineer. They'll set you up with some microphones, the equipment. Because in order for you to podcast at home, it takes a lot of money to start yourself off. But at Chaotic Radio, you can hear a podcast on your own and get your show out as soon as you have your idea, which is an amazing thing. Sean, this is a nice studio, right?
This is a good setup. I like this. We're ready to go. We came in and literally sat down and started recording.
Yeah.
There wasn't any, fine tuning everything, getting everything set up. Everyone, it was ready to go.
It's beautiful. So yeah, come to ChaoticRadio.com. They have great comparable rates for you to start your own podcast and you be live on the show. If you want, you can check us out on the live stream on YouTube. They have a live stream feature in their show too. So I think, Sean, next week we might have some guests.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, we might have some guests. We're going to talk about some other nerdy things too.
Oh, good.
So I hope you guys enjoy this. If you have any suggestions, let us know at Business Autopsy on Twitter, Business Autopsy on Facebook, Business Autopsy on Instagram too. We have Instagram.
Yeah, we got Instagram.
We just don't do anything with it yet because
And
we don't have
tell
the
them
we
about
don't,
Reddit.
we don't have the rights to do anything yet. We're waiting to figure out what the other
Oh yeah,
show
we're
is.
waiting.
We're waiting. We're still here. So I'm B. That's Sean,
Tell all of us, people.
and we'll see you later. You're good.